Good morning. It is Thursday, March 7th. I'm back here for Daily Shakeup number 860. And today I want to talk about one of those topics that we tend to shy away from or avoid or minimize, but it's such an important conversation for leadership because it's about people and how we interact with people, how we see people, how we perceive them, and how we judge them, often unconsciously, and have unintended impacts. In the context of this, I want to talk about the concept of microaggressions. Now, microaggressions might be a new term to you, and one definition is this: it's things, common language or behavior or contextual situations, even if they're unintentional, that in some way communicate hostility, something is derogatory or negative attitudes towards people or groups that are marginalized, that are target groups, that are perceived as the different group. And often these are very subtle and sometimes less subtle, but again, still unintended, but they have an impact and they don't serve our relationships. And they certainly don't serve us building trust and creating inclusive environments in our workplace. So I want to just set the scene for you. I was recently in a conversation, a large group, and it was a group of men, and one of the men in the group, I said to the group, identified himself as being trans. He was a trans man. And he made the comment that he said, as far as I know, the rest of the room is cis. He was using the short term for cisgender, and I am trans. Now, for those of you who may not know, and I get it, it's not new language, but it's language we're starting to use more often. So cisgender means that the person identifies based upon whatever gender they were identified as at birth. So if I was identified as male, I identify as male, so I am cisgender. If I was born male, but I identified as female, I would be transgender. So it's really not that complicated. It's just perhaps being brought more into the light these days. So that's a quick note on what the difference is, but here's what happened. And this is where we've got to be careful with curiosity. So someone in the group had never heard the word cis or cisgender. And their response was, and the first question was, I'm not sure, what does that mean? Fair question. But then they went on to say this: is it a made up word? Is it a made up word? Now, that probably came from curiosity, purely from curiosity, not knowing, had not heard the word, therefore wondered if it was made up. But think about what's the impact when someone, especially in that environment, has had the courage to identify themselves as different, as trans, and then when they've tried to explain it, the question back is that made up? Which really, to me, is a dismissive question. It has curiosity, but think about the impact if you're that person of difference. They think someone thinks you're making up a word, just as if whatever it is that we're talking about doesn't really exist. And perhaps the impact is someone feels like they don't even exist. I heard this and I thought, wow, that's a great example where we have to be careful with our curiosity. Curiosity is good, but often our curiosity comes with judgments. And those judgments are what have that impact, that unintended impact that get in the way of our relationship, of communication, of trust, and inclusion. So give it a thought. Love to hear your thoughts. And that's what I just wanted to share today. A real life example and lesson of where our curiosity can really harm our relationships because somewhere in there, there's this hint of judgment and separation. That's it for today. Have a fantastic day and make a difference.